7. We are back on this Monday morning with Roy Rickstrew, the disability guru, and we're going to get into first responders and how they work with the system right after this.
I want to be your disability rep.
And we're back. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today. Roy, glad you're here. We missed last Monday because it was Labor Day.
Correct.
It's all right. And then you brought up when you came in today, this is the 22nd anniversary of our 9/11 tragedy.
It is.
There. And so it's a good day to talk about first responders.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of a nice day to spend a little time, kind of tribute to those folks that are first responders. A couple things you may not know. My daughter's an EMT. Very proud of her for that.
Sure.
Wish she'd go on and be a paramedic, but she's very proud of her for being an EMT. And her boyfriend's a firefighter.
Yeah.
And so, when we talk about first responders, they're close to home.
Right.
For me. And I don't know how your community is, but in the big town of Willard, every year on 9/11, someone comes around and puts a flag in every yard.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Has a little thing about 9/11, a little commemorative deal. And it's hard to forget, which it should be.
Right.
And I don't know who it is that does it.
Yeah.
As I recall, the little tag on the flag doesn't really say who it is. And I saw yesterday it was probably an 18 or 19-year-old kid in a pickup walking through the neighborhood, sticking flags in everybody's driveway, but a very neat thing.
Sure, yeah, probably sponsored by somebody.
Oh,
maybe,
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm
Of
sure
course,
it is.
I have 3 sons, none of whom remember that
Right.
because, Peter's 25 and he was 3 when that happened, so I don't think he remembers that hardly at all. And Luke was 1 and Jack wasn't here yet. But so we have this whole generation that doesn't remember it.
Right. I heard on the radio this morning Marshfield's having a big to-do.
Oh, good.
Today. I think they're putting out, I don't remember how many, 2,700 flags or something. Yeah. It was kind of a neat thing. Marshfield's a very patriotic town. I grew up there between Stratford and Marshfield, this close to Northview. And I remember when President Bush came to Marshfield. And
I was there.
Yeah, we were too. Just kind of amazing, I tell people that now, and they just can't believe the president came to Marshfield. But
sure,
he sure did, bigger than life. So,
but you mentioned this before we got started today. The first responders, they face some unique challenges in their, not only in their work, but then when it comes to disability.
Yeah, it's interesting. Social Security has special rules for PTSD. They kind of give their workers some guidance on how to process these things. And one of those things is we have to have a clear, defined trauma. Something that puts your life at risk or puts you in risk of physical harm. And that's the way the regulations are written. And the interesting thing about firefighters especially is that maybe 5 or 6 times a week.
Yeah.
In reality, maybe not necessarily in Springfield or in our smaller communities, but certainly if you worked in a large city, you would have that frequently.
Sure.
So it's kind of difficult when they turn around and file for a disability. A lot of times the PTSD is what they've seen from all the time that they've worked calls and stuff through the years. So the regulations at Social Security really are not supportive.
So I guess the issue there is there's not one event.
Right.
It's an accumulation of a career spent.
Well, sure. Yeah. If somebody carjacks you, you've got something you can point back to and say, this is what caused my difficulties. Or with rape, it's as a here this day. But with first responders, that's not really the case.
Sure.
So it does kind of create some unique challenges.
And then, no, go ahead.
No, and kind of the sad part is, these things just become the norm, like folks that are in a foxhole, you get shot at every day, that it's no longer that defining moment, and it's hard for people to then look back and say, here's the source of my trauma, this specific thing, and unfortunately a lot of those first responders just don't simply want to talk about those bad calls.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make their medical records, and it creates some kind of unique challenges.
Well, and then I wonder how that translates then to the EMTs and the paramedics whose maybe their life isn't in direct danger,
Right.
but they see this horrific trauma repeatedly. Even though it's not happening to them, it's right in their face, and it has to cause some similar symptoms, I guess.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And you know, most all of the EMTs, fire departments, they have some sort of counseling outreach that folks can use, on the job counseling. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember my daughter when she came home and, you know, had a newborn that drowned in a swimming pool, and you know how bad it bothered her and for how long it bothered her. But she didn't really feel like there was an outreach for her, and it's unfortunate, you know.
Yeah, it really is.
But it does create some real unique problems for Social Security. And, you know, we talk about, well, what do you do about it? Well, you know, first of all is employ the counselor at work. I mean, have that documented that, you know, you've struggled with these things along the way. Because, you know, when you talk to an administrative law judge, their question a lot of times is, if this happened 10 years ago, how have you functioned for the last 9.5, and then it became a problem? And I think it's a very legitimate question. But at least if you have those counseling contacts, employed ministry or the pastor at the fire department, you know, you can point back to those things and say, look, you know, I've had help. It just became overwhelming. It wasn't like someone flipped a switch. There is some background to this.
Well, and it's just like we've talked before about any disability case, that medical documentation that supports the claim, the disability is critical.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, a lot of the fire department, for example, the union up there has got peer groups where my hopefully future son-in-law works. You know, there's peer groups that they get together and they chat these things out, and, you know, use those things, make the most of those opportunities.
Well, we certainly do appreciate all of our first responders. They serve us well, and they're almost all underpaid.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's you know, any of those public service jobs. You know, even the one that I had working as a prosecutor, people were. I tell them what my salary was, and they were shocked that it was so low. Because like, well, you're a lawyer. I'm like, yeah, but you're working for the government.
You know, and just real quick, we went to Gulf Shores and we went to a milkshake place there that had $22 milkshakes.
Oh my goodness!
And that's what I thought too. Oh my goodness! And
they were worth it.
And no, I didn't buy one because it was too tight. But my daughter and her boyfriend did. They both bought them, and he came over and I'm like, dude, that's $45. And he's like, yeah, I know. And it's like, you know, you might stand in a field fire in 100-degree heat for, you know, several hours to make what that milkshake, you know, cost. And I just couldn't believe it. But it's incredibly sad how underappreciated those folks are.
Well, I don't know what to do about it, but maybe we can. Hey, if you've got questions about a disability, if you're a first responder, you know, or a loved one, you can call Roy. His number is right there on the screen, or you can go to his website. You can just scan that QR code right there off the screen. Take you to his website, right?
Yeah, takes you directly to the website. Have time today. You know, if you guys have questions or want to come in today or give me a ring today, please do.
All right, and join us next week for more disability.
I want to be your disability rep.